Welcome to the O.W.P. This is our wrestling podcast. This is Dave along with Jess.
Good evening, Dave.
Cuz.
What a rush.
And Craig.
Cuz stole my intro.
That's a good one. Bringing you our perspective on the world of professional wrestling.
I should have done that.
No inside sources, no ties to the industry, just stories from the diehards, sharing opinions with you. And now on to our topic today, the legend of the Road Warriors. Hit us up on Instagram at O.W.P. 2019. Click on Linktree. You can find us on several platforms, including Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and Google Podcast. But don't forget, we're also part of the Wrestle Hub family. It's all about wrestling podcast. Catch them at the Wrestle Hub on YouTube and Instagram. Guys, we got to turn this one around quick, but it's a sad, sad day.
It's great to be here at the Legend of the Road Warriors.
What's that good?
I said it's great to be here at the Legend of the Road Warriors.
Yeah, the legend of the Warriors. I almost said the legend of the Legion.
The legacy.
Well, I want to say legacy, but these guys are legends, right? I mean, make it a little bit different. These guys are legends. Like we were talking about off the air earlier, people were calling us that hadn't talked to us in a while because we're weird and we're wrestling fans. And hey, did you hear about Animal? We're like, what? Yeah. How did you hear about it?
I was completely surprised at the number of people that did reach out in kind of shock. More, I think we were saying this before, more than Piper. I think more than like Macho. I was just like, I mean, that's a testament to how powerful that tag team was. But and again, it's kind of shocking. But I'm glad we're doing this. And it's a good idea to kind of quickly kind of do this while it's still fresh.
Yeah, Jess, good on you, buddy.
You're welcome, everybody.
Oh man, should we be laughing right now? I don't know.
No.
I'm just saying.
Hawk would want that. Animal and Hawk would want that.
We lost, Joseph Laurinaitis.
You better laugh during our podcast.
But we're gonna get into it today. It was a really good time, I think, for us to really go over that whole legacy of the Road Warriors, aka the Legion of Doom, depending on when and where you're talking about them. You guys ready to jump in?
Let's do it.
Do it. All right. Hawk was born Michael Hickstrand on January 26, 1957, and Animal was born Joseph Laurinaitis on December 12th of 1960. Animal grew up in Minnesota, while he and Hawk worked as bouncers at Grandma B's nightclub in the Twin Cities. They caught the eye of wrestling trainer and promoter Ed Sharkey. He, along with Hawk, Richard Rude, Barry Dorso, those were the star students for Sharkey back in those days.
I love how Grandma B sounds like a really nice like diner club, but it was apparently the roughest, toughest, most shadiest nightclub in Minnesota, where they all the dregs hung out.
I also love how they talked about to see how far they can throw somebody out the door.
Grandma
before they actually.
Where are you going to be tonight? Man, I'm going to be at Grandma B's. You know that.
Grandma B's, baby.
You need me, I'll be at Granny B's.
Yeah,
better pay your tab, bitches.
You imagine seeing these guys as bouncers? I wouldn't want to start any shit. I'm just saying.
No.
200-300-pound guys going.
You're gonna mouth off to fucking Animal.
Well, and that's how they got noticed by Sharkey. Animal got noticed by Sharkey because he and I don't remember who he said was his partner at the time, bouncing partner. They threw the shit out of somebody out of the bar, And Sharky was walking up and looked and just said, "Who the fuck threw that guy?" And kind of looked and saw Animal there, and he's like, "You should come train to be a pro wrestler." And so that's kind of how Sharky discovered him. Because
they discovered Animal
first,
and then there was a picture that he had where he thought, he's like, "I'm looking for this guy." He's like, "No, that's not Joe. That's Mike." He's like, "There's two of these guys. Like, these guys are massive," and that's kind of how it started, right? According to the the legends.
And then according to Animal, the first time he met Hawk, he was benching, and then Hawk just slapped him palm first in the middle of the bench and said something like, "You should lift more weight." And like that was his like, "Hi, I'm Hawk. What's your name?" Or
I want to be your friend. I'm Michael. Yeah,
slap you right across the chest while you're benching 300 pounds.
Nice to meet you, Joseph.
Slap. So that's kind of the beginning. The beginning of the Road Warriors though was in 1983 and 84. Animal would begin wrestling for Ole Anderson in Georgia Championship Wrestling. Right before a show, Animal's partner couldn't make it. Ole then called Hawk to fill in. They would be placed in a heel stable managed by a precious Paul Ellering called the Legion of Doom. The group consisted of Hawk and Animal, that were the Road Warriors, Jake Roberts, and the Spoiler. That was the match, Jess?
No, that was the Legion of Doom faction.
I did not know
that it was
faction.
First.
That blew
Jake
my mind.
Roberts and the Spoiler were part of
and Hawk came up with the name Legion of Doom. It was him and Jake Roberts were talking about it, and so that's when the Hawk was like, "Why don't we just be Legion of Doom?" And Hawk used to do the voice to now back to the Legion of that when you watch the Super Friends, that cartoon, and that voice, the voiceover that would be like, "And now back to the halls of justice." Like, so Hawk would do that a lot, and he's like, "Why don't we just be the Legion of Doom? Because we're a bunch of villains," and so that stuck. So,
love it.
That's
Jake,
awesome.
Jake was like, "Let's do it."
And there's no one kind of more of an enigma than Paul Ellering. The more you hear about Paul Ellering, like he literally was a manager in every respect, like booked them and planned for them. And towards the end of the documentary, he kept the van that they first drove together in. And apparently he would always he was very smart and just was always reading backstage. Some kind of newspaper or whatever. So there's
he literally managed them because like they were, especially Hawk was like a runaway train, so he would be like, "Get the fuck up!" Like he would always call him every morning, "Get up, come down put your clothes on, come down to the lobby, bring your stuff."
A shower.
Like, come down. Like, and so he just was that kind of guy. If it hadn't been for him, I don't know if we have the Road Warriors last as long as
not in this capacity.
Yeah,
I think
you have a great 83 to 86 run maybe.
And he was booking, but he was booking like everything for them. He would book inside, outside. He'll go to Japan for them. He was booking everything. Like, get on a plane, let's go. We're going tomorrow. He knew that the capability of them, but he also knew they really had to be managed. It wasn't even a question.
Yeah. So. And when he speaks of them, he speaks with so much love and reverence. Like he loved those guys.
They're brothers, man. They're all brothers. They were working together for 30 years, right? Something crazy. Well, I mean, for Hawk maybe not, but anywho, that stable of the Legion of Doom would be short-lived. The Road Warriors would break off on their own and keep Paul Ellering as their manager. The three would be referred to as the Legion of Doom, but Hawk and Animal's team would always be known as the Road Warriors at this time. They immediately caught fire with their size, strength, and appearance. Face paint and shoulder spikes, they would become a major attraction for GCW and win their tag titles there on 3 separate occasions. They gained a reputation for being very stiff and not selling much because they could.
Move into the ring. We have not seen them for some time, but obviously they are under the management of one precious Paul Ellering.
That's the big key, whoever, I don't know the age group of people that listen to us, but people in their 20s and probably 30s don't know how important the territories were. And these guys were the epitome of when you take your act on the road, you want the act to strike a chord no matter what territory, whether you go to Georgia or you go to New York or you go to Jersey or you go to California or you go to Texas. You needed like a gimmick that would kind of resonate everywhere because each booker of each territory was very different. So you would go to new territories to keep yourself from getting stale at one particular place. Their look and their size did it all. There was no argument. Like everybody else would be like, "Oh man, I I'm kind of stale here in the Carolinas, so I think I'm going to go to Georgia, and work over there for Ole. I hope Ole books me right. I hope I give him what he wants. The Road Warriors were never worried about how they were booked because they were literally from the beginning like, yeah, we're not fucking losing and we're not getting knocked off our feet, by the way. And because nobody could really do it. And I know that sounds ignorant, and they might have been a little green and ignorant back here. And then some people in shooting interviews recently have said, yeah, in the beginning they were hard to work with because they were super stiff, and all they wanted to do was kick the shit out of you and look good. But they could fit that bill. They wore those pants, and so like, and you cannot respect it, but at the same time, they literally made a 30-year span out of it. I mean, my God. And, I think Paul Ellering kind of helped them get smarter as it went. And you could see as we get along, too, when they eventually go to NWA, when they eventually go to WWF, they learned a lot of stuff. You could tell the way they played to the crowd, the way they acted. They were good pro wrestlers. They understood what they needed to do. Here, it's like they were just huge men, and they were experimenting with their face paint and their shoulder pads, and just it was catching fire. Everybody was, even if they were heels, people were like, those guys are awesome. Like, and they're murdering people. Could you imagine like a 50-50 match with Hawk and Animal and anybody else?
No.
Like, no.
With Greg Gagne and
with Greg Gagne and the Crusher with this big beer belly. Like, no, that's not going to happen.
Chicken wings them. Yeah.
Or no, you get Ole in there. No offense, Ole's kind of like I'm not trying to be like a trollish kind of guy. Yeah, he talks like a shockmaster. And balding hair on his chest and stuff. And then you look over and you see Hawk and Animal, and you're like, well. No, I don't believe at all that Ole could do anything to them. Yeah.
So Larry the Axe Henning's going over tonight in AWA.
Right. Yeah.
No.
And Hawk and
in
fact,
I remember I was traumatized by an old AWA videotape, and it might have been Kurt Hennig with his neck stuck in the ropes, and I think was it the Road Warriors that hit him with a chair, and and Hennig is bleeding like a stuck pig with his neck still stuck in the ropes. And it was like I was too young, and I was just like, oh man, I was just like, it's real, and he's dying in the ring in an AWA. I could be wrong. Could have been the Sheik.
Well, no, you're right. Nobody heard from Kurt Hennig again after that. Nobody knows what happened. You're right. Right. You're totally right.
That could be true. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's my memories of them earlier. You talk about the territories, and a lot of people don't get it. You could look back, and a lot of people are just like, oh, they were all show, and they were just bullies, and they didn't ever want to lose. I'm like, well, if you're an independent contractor and you're responsible for getting your own one-man show or two-man show in their case over, you do whatever you have to do to go to different territories to get hired by them too. So they solved that problem.
Not to mention, Jess, they put butts in the seats, man.
Yes.
Right. Exactly.
And every single magazine at that point too, Wrestler, PWI, they were color spreads all through. Like Dave, you'll
get to it at the end when you do the championships and accomplishments at the end. They were getting awards in '83 and '84. That's their rookie and sophomore years. Yeah. Like the fuck, like
man.
Jesus.
Greenhorns.
So yeah, sorry,
really.
Go on.
Badass.
Never had a wrestle as a greenhorn anyway. But jumping to the AWA '84, the Road Warriors would take their act to the AWA owned and ran by Vern Gagne. They would capture the AWA tag team titles very quickly upon their arrival.
Weighing 235 pounds from Robbinsdale, Minnesota, part of the Axe Attack, Kurt Hennig. His tag team partner from the Republic of Germany, weighing 283 pounds, the Clawmaster, Baron von Raschka. And ladies and gentlemen, in the ring to my left, accompanied by their manager, Precious Paul Ellering, with a combined weight of 565 pounds from Chicago, Illinois, the AWA Tag Team Champions of the World, the Legion of Doom, the Road Warriors.
They were brought in as heels, but their dominance, especially in squash matches, was just getting naturally over with the crowd. This is what they were capable of doing. They were the promotion's top draw, feuding with the Fabulous Ones and the Freebirds. It was here when they began to use Iron Man.
We're not losing tonight.
Yeah.
What?
No,
I dare
sing my song. We're not losing.
I dare any tag team to walk in the door right now and tell Michael P.S. Hayes, oh, hey, Hawk and Animal. Yeah, no.
Son of a bitch.
Hey, Hawk, I want to get my shit in. This is what I do.
Yeah.
Pee on you when you're passed out on a plane.
Ah, what a rush.
It's like that.
It was at this time they began to use Iron Man by Black Sabbath as their theme music, but they had shortly left the company in just 2 short years in '86.
What an amazing
Should have came out to War Pigs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Good luck getting that one in. See if you can get that clip in, Jess, without getting cut out. We'll see what happens. But as we move forward to 86 through 1990, there were some slices of NWA, Jim Crockett Promotions, and All Japan Pro Wrestling for them. In 85, the Road Warriors began to tour Japan mainly under All Japan Pro Wrestling. I think this is where Ellering was getting real smart. You want to make some money? Let's go overseas. And he started booking them over there. They would easily become the attraction and win the NWA International Tag Team titles on March 12th of 1987. They would constantly tour Japan until 1990, but in 86, they had also joined Jim Crockett Promotions of the NWA. They would win the Jim Crockett Senior Memorial Cup, which was an annual tag team tournament, by defeating Ron Garvin and Magnum TA in the finals. That's
Paul Ellering. Hey, Tony Schiavone, let me say, the Jim Crockett Senior Memorial Cup, the Warriors going to be there in Louisiana, and we're going to take that cup home. We do what we say. You know something, Tony Schiavone? We're what this stinking country's all about. It's a violent society, and we're the product of our environment. What we say we're going to do, we do, and we get it done. Let me tell you something, Russians. If we want that 6-man competition, we'll take it home with us. And let me tell you something, Nikita.
That's good company to be in.
Yeah. They splashed big when they went to Crockett Promotions. It was natural. They were the biggest NWA territory pretty much at the time, and like when they went over there, it was like, well, yeah, like of course they're going to come over here, and of course they're going to make a lot of money for us, and of course we need to push them because they're a tag team. So yeah, they really right away. But what I find really interesting, and you're going to tell the story here in NWA and WWF, they like AWA and Georgia Championship Wrestling right away. They're like, put the tag belts on them. But when they went here to Crockett and when they went to Vince, it was like, wait a minute, don't. And because they saw something, they're just like, are we selling out now because of them? Yes. And what the fuck are you doing? Why don't put the belts on them yet?
Yeah.
And I find that very interesting with Hawk and Animal in a good way. And I find it really smart by promoters to do that because Vince has always tried. He's always tried to do that. I mean, think about what Vince did with, after the rock and wrestling era died out, he was trying to keep Taker on the middle card, have Brett as champion, or keep Brett in the middle card, have Shawn as champion, and he was trying to layer his card. So-and-so doesn't need the belt. So-and-so could be champion, but the other one doesn't need to be champion because his gimmick is so over. They always felt like that with Hawk and Animal. Vince, including when they finally went to WWF, which you'll read later, they were not in a rush to put the tag titles on them, which I find very interesting because when you get someone like Hawk and Animal, your first instinct would be to, well, we're going to put the fucking straps on them. But it wasn't with them. It was always... I don't know. I don't know if it was hesitancy when they got on the bigger stage with the Crockett's and the McMahons because they were like, well, they're a little hard to do business with, and they don't ever want to lose.
They have no loyalty, so why put the belts on? Why put the belts on?
So I don't. Yeah, and that's a good point too. That's why I think it's so interesting because it ended up being the right move. Because if you have an act that already sells out, you don't need to rush and put the belts on them.
Right.
But you're right. The early promoters were like, yes, do it. Put the belts on them. They're selling tickets. So let's get the belts on them and make them champions. But the other guys were like, hang on.
It's a different world, isn't it? When you go from that territory to the WWF, it's about that chase.
Well,
you want
Vince
them to get to the next,
and then
big event. So if you can if you get them chased for 3 major pay-per-views and finally win on the 4th one, that's a year, and you're selling out tickets all the way through because everybody wants to see them eventually win those titles or climb up to win them. So.
And then Vince has always been a guy that
different mentality, right?
Vince has always been a guy that's like attractions don't necessarily need belts either, and those guys were kind of the pop was so big.
You're a character, pal, and it's over.
You're fine.
Yeah, he knew how to handle the characters.
Yeah,
the stars.
There's a lot of guys like that where it's the philosophy. They say, why didn't he ever win a title? Didn't need it.
Although we're crediting Vince, and we're. In probably 15 minutes, we're going to talk about like Rocco probably and how
not probably watered down. We will.
Yeah.
We're all credited about what.
Not to be a dick, but how many titles did Jake win? You know.
Shit. Right. No, it's true.
Didn't need it.
He had the gimmick. There you go.
He had the gimmick.
Vince
told you.
I told you.
Yeah, Vince. God dang it. but anyway.
I do this line off my finger.
Listen to.
But back to those.
I told you.
They were so hot. Dusty Rhodes actually made them a feature part of the 1986 Great American Bash Tour. In November of '86, they competed for the first ever scaffold match at Starrcade. Still don't understand this bad boy.
Scaffold matches
Skywalkers.
Fucking stupid. Sorry, continue.
It's called Starrcade Skywalkers, and they defeated the Midnight Express there. The only thing that's really memorable about this is the infamous Jim Cornette fall from the scaffold, and he legit blew out both of his knees. It's horrifying.
I want to fall with the fucking cage. Like, that's what he did, probably at the end. They're probably trying to work out the match in the back. Oh, everyone shut the fuck up, I'll fall. Like, and they're like, all right, Jim will fall. Jim will do it. And then he did both the knees.
He just overswings his legs. It's so...
Well, you didn't know how to fall, man.
Kenny Omega style.
You don't know how to fall. You don't...
I don't know how many people. I don't know how many people know how to fall from a fucking scaffold though in 1986.
Yeah, what do you expect? I don't know how to fall from a freaking scaffold at 20 feet high. Like,
but Crockett was like, "Just do it." Dusty's like, "Baby, go out and do it. It's fine."
You be fine, okay.
It's just a little scaffold.
You owe me later.
You know what's funny is you think Dusty even felt a little bit guilty about that? And, nah.
No, baby.
He's like, nah, baby, send him to the hospital. He'll be fine. Be fine, baby.
Jim, we're gonna have to ask something of you if you have a second. He's like, I'm fucking fine. You're going to put on the scaffold tonight if you dig. And he's like, oh, fuck you, Dusty. And he goes out and does it. Like,
fine.
What if Dusty was like Vince and he's I'm gonna show you how to do it first. And he's like jumped off.
He looked like
perfect on his feet. He did like a front flip off it. Just like that, baby. Oh, well, if he can do it, I can fucking do it.
So, oh, well, fuck Dusty.
Every time Vince does it, he has to go, see, it's fine.
Feet, on my feet, baby. It's fine. He's like, oh, well, shit.
And you did the splits. God damn it.
Turning face, they would team with Dusty Rhodes against the Four Horsemen. They would compete in the Great American Bash Tour in the first ever War Games cage match.
Turner, my girlfriend and Mel Gibson in the Thunderdome, right? And I see this cage, and I see this top on the cage. And I know through the years in my industry, the cage match has always been a big part, especially down south, when you blew off matches. And so I said, has there ever been two rings with a cage, one cage covering both rings with the top on it and two doors at each end? And
their team would defeat the Horsemen in both War Games matches. They would also win the NWA six-man tag team titles on 2 occasions with Dusty Rhodes. They would win by DQ against Arn and Tully at Starrcade in '87, but failed to win the NWA tag team titles. They would be in a brief but violent feud with the Warlord and the Barbarian. So that's someone who could take him out, in my opinion. It's one of the few, right?
That's why they did it.
When the Warlord and Barbarian found out they were scheduled to lose every match against them, they quit the NWA and went to work for the WWF as the Powers of Pain. By the way, besides prelim matches, how many matches did they win in the WWF?
Right. Yeah, the fate was pretty much determined on both companies for them. I mean, really, it's funny how Demolition get the Road Warrior wannabes kind of monkier, but to me, the Powers of Pain were always Road Warrior ripoffs. They looked almost just like them. All they had to do was wear shoulder pads. Like, that's all they had to do. Their mohawks, their face paint, everything was the same as LOD. And I always thought it was funny that obviously Demolition was a derivative of the Road Warriors, but at the same time, like, Powers of Pain were a fucking straight up copy. Like, they were just trying to look like Road Warriors. But Crockett used that before they even went to the WWF. And it was like what you said, Dave, the whole point behind the feud was these guys look like them and they're their matches. They're their equals. And so they kind of played off that. But yeah, they found out pretty much like, we're going to lose every match to the Road Warriors. Fuck you, we're leaving. And they left. And they went to WWF.
And we'll lose every major match in WWF instead. So that's fine. They probably got paid more anyway. It's fine.
I don't know what your problem is.
They beat bullshit. Time, get paid more. Why not?
Yeah, that's what I say. If you're going to lose, you might as well go get paid more to lose.
Yeah.
I missed a couple minutes, but if you guys are talking about Powers of Pain being the real Road Warriors, I'm on board with
that. They were, man. They were. I'm telling you. If it was a real fight, who would win? Seriously.
Right. Oh, that's, you know what? Road Warriors, right?
No,
if they competed in Raw Underground, I don't know.
Raw Underground.
I don't know.
So, goodness. The Road Warriors turned heel by attacking Sting in mid-1988. They would finally win the NWA tag titles on October 29th, 1988 by defeating the Midnight Express. Is this memorable, Jess?
When did they come in? They came in at 86, and when did you say they won the titles? In 88?
88. Yeah,
But they were in
October,
every major match.
late
They were in the
October.
Scaffold matches. Dusty trusted them. They were in the first 2 War Games matches ever. They were a
On the Great
centerpiece
American
of the
Bash
Great
Tour.
American Bash Tour in the summer of '86. So, like, yeah, it's crazy. Like, they leaned on them heavily for almost 2 years, and they finally win the tag titles in a house show in 1988 by beating the Midnight Express. Crazy. It's
In a house show?
Yeah, at
Oh
a
my
house
God.
show. At Dusty Rhodes' house.
At Dusty Rhodes' house.
I have a
Yeah.
scaffold here too,
I
basically.
brought you all here together to break bread with you, and you guys are dropping the titles in my living room in a second to Road
I
Warrior.
still have the
Anyway,
scaffold at my house.
Slam it
if
through
you
the
want to
glass
use
table.
it today.
if you go up back, I have a scaffold set up in my backyard. If anybody would like to wrestle on it, that'd be fine. Hold on. Dustin, get the fuck up.
Worst
Sorry,
idea
not Dustin. He's an asshole.
Unless it comes out of a box. Then. This is interesting, what you got here, Jess. In November of '88, the Road Warriors were directly involved in an angle that was written by Dusty Rhodes that actually got Dusty Rhodes fired as a head booker. So
I showed them how to do it, baby. Like, what's the problem?
on the November 26, 1988 episode of World Championship Wrestling, the Road Warriors will remove one of the spikes from their shoulder pads and use it to gouge the eye of Dusty Rhodes in a brutal attack.
That's
That's
awesome. What's
insane.
the problem?
Yeah, he wrote that, and then I guess this is at a time where Turner had already bought Crockett about like 2 months before, so they were really looking at it. I want to say
trying to get it more
Jim Herd-
kid friendly. Then
Yeah, Jim Herd was just coming into. No, Jim Herd wasn't in power yet, but Dusty was under a lot of scrutiny. What happened was, really quick, Crockett, out of nowhere, realized, oh fuck, we're spending way more money than we're bringing in, because they would literally fly the Horsemen on private jets every night to shows. They would literally fund Flair buying. I bought an island. Okay, fuck, Rick bought an island. Like, and it was just sort of like they were just spending a lot of money. This was during wrestling boom period in like the mid to late '80s, so there was money everywhere. And Crockett was doing great. But what happened is they started dabbling in the pay-per-view industry and trying to match Vince at that point, kind of like mid to late 80s, and it didn't work out well for them. So they were trying to branch out of the East Coast, which Vince was mastering with Hogan, because Hogan had this appeal so he could go anywhere. Whereas like Jim Crockett was sort of still dealing with other territories, and the NWA was still kind of a territory championship, and they were the biggest territory, but they were trying to figure out, how do we compete with Vince? Well, the only way to compete with Vince is to buy your fucking father's company and quarantine it and do your own thing. That was the only way you were going to be like Vince. Vern tried it with the AWA, but he didn't have the gumption, he didn't have the foresight like Vince did, because Vince was a lot younger, a lot more creative. Crockett was like, well, I'm going to match them strategy for strategy. I'm going to try to match them with pay-per-view. I'm going to try to match them going to the East Coast. And they didn't. Every time they went out of their market, they would fucking tank when they would draw houses. And it was bad.
you can't
And so
spin
that's what
Hogan
happened.
money.
So out of nowhere, they're like, we're broke. So then
have-
Turner, who's been a huge wrestling
You
fan.
can't spin Hogan money if you don't have Hogan,
Right.
Jess. I mean,
Exactly.
You don't have me, brother.
That's a very good point. So Turner came in and said, I'll buy it. I love wrestling, World Championship Wrestling, Georgia World Championship Wrestling especially, really helped me keep ratings up on TBS, so I'll buy it. So he bought it. So after he bought it, now it becomes part of this big corporation. So now everyone's looking at it. And attendance and buy rates and everything hugely declined from 1987 to 1988, because the last-ditch moves that Crockett did before he sold damaged a lot of their mainstay territories. So basically, like, he pissed Chicago off. He pissed Carolina off. He pissed a lot of different places off. Then they sold. People are still mad at the company. And then Turner decides to be like, well, the best thing to do is to copy Vince, if this makes any sense what I'm saying right now. So it was like this 2-year span where just they made, like, everything they did was wrong. And so it was just, and it led into a sale of a company, and Turner got his arms around it. And then Turner tried to put suits on it, like you would any other company, CEOs, execs, to try to figure out
I
pro
have no
wrestling.
idea how wrestling works.
Ever
Right.
knew. So they were all over Dusty. The whole year before, ratings were declining, attendance was sucking. By the end of '88, it was hard for them to draw houses. And so now you have Dusty on TV saying, get your spike, stick it up my butt, do whatever you got to do. And so they were like, no, that shit's super fucking violent. Like, Vince is having smashing success with kids, and you are shoving a spike in someone's eye. So
I thought you
why?
said butt.
Sorry, did I say butt? I meant I.
So I gotta show myself how to do it. So
Baby, I meant I too. I meant I too when Animal really stuck it in my butt. So my fault. Anyway.
Rose right in the face. Oh my God, he's put it in his eye. He's put the spike in his eye. He is jabbing him in the eye, or has with the spike. He unhooked it from his shoulder pads or whatever it was, and he's jabbing in Dusty's eye. He's opened Dusty up. This is horrible. Sticking that spike right in his eye. The Road Warriors, they are trying to blind him. They stuck that spike right in his eye. Rhodes is bleeding.
I'm fired? Okay. So
what I originally want to do was fall off.
I'll get my bag.
Scaffold with my butt landing on the spike. That's what I.
Most stuff's already packed. So basically, yeah, they were just like, look, you can't be Booker anymore. So because of this angle, that Hawk and Animal just did what they were told. Like they were like way too violent. We want to scale this shit down a little bit. We want to be more. The other guy that we're trying to copy, super successful by being Bubblegummy and Kitty. So why would you do that? Why? How is this going to fix your problem? You know.
Is that when Dusty went to WWF for a spell? And
yeah. Shortly after he got fired from Booker, and then shortly after that, I don't remember how long, he was in WWF in 1989. I think his first pay-per-view was SummerSlam '89. So I would say probably 3 months later, Rhodes was gone. And
probably had to work out his non-compete clause, and then if he had one, so 90 days, and then put on the polka dots, baby.
And it sucks they never made money from it, but as far as perception, if you were a fan back then, you did treat NWA as the more real, legitimate kind of fan, and you watch that, so that it didn't bother that spike or anything.
Like legitly, everyone gravitated toward ECW in the mid '90s, but you go back and watch a lot of '86 and '87 Crockett stuff. That shit, that was ECW for the Rockin' era. They bled all the time. Ask Flair, he'll tell you. And Rhodes bled all the time too. But they were like, it was physical. And I'll never forget, like Shivani and Gordon Soley and then Jim Ross eventually would just be like, this physical, no one compares, no one. And they would just it was all energy. And so if you didn't like Vince and what he was doing, or even if you did like him, you would turn over to the NWA and be like, this shit seems a little bit more, I'm hearing slaps of flesh. I'm hearing, a lot of stuff that I don't hear on WWF programming. And so, it was they were doing it right. They just didn't spend their money right, and they had to sell quickly.
Well, they were doing a lot of things wrong, and another thing wrong with this particular write-up, right, Jess, is that the fans are not going to turn on the Road Warriors. So no matter, they could kill somebody, as people say, and they would still be faces. So they had to turn them faces again because the crowd wouldn't boo them. Even in this where they're trying to push them into the heel tactics, this didn't work out. They would lose the NWA tag titles to Mike Rotunda and
read the notes the way I wrote them.
I'm just reading the notes, ladies and gentlemen. The motherfucking cocksucking Kevin Sullivan.
Wow.
I love how it says at the Clash of Champions. It's the Clash of Champions on April 2nd of 1989. Jess was typing super fast. He put out 6 pages in 2 minutes. So, yeah, I definitely don't understand that. But in the summer and fall of '89, they would feud and defeat the Wild Samoans and the Skyscrapers. They competed in the tag team round robin tournament in Starrcade of '89. Future Shock was that particular pay-per-view. On December 13th of '89, they would ultimately win the tournament on points, but lose their only match of the night to the Steiner brothers.
Gentlemen, Hawk and Animal, this coming Wednesday night in the Iron Team division is going to be physical, fellas. We know some Jim Ross. There's a lot going on in the NWA. Sting, Mona, Flair, Funk, Luger, the Four Horsemen back. The Road Warriors are here. You got the Steiners. Starrcade, what separates the NWA from everybody else. We have real athletes here, and if you don't like it, we don't care. Now, Doom, Skyscrapers, and Wednesday night, you're gonna pay. Starrcade, Future Shock, we're gonna prove to everybody who the Iron Men really are. Tell them, brother. Well, me and Animal Jim, we don't carry health insurance. You want to know why? We don't need to.
Thumbs up, thumbs down on that match?
Starrcade was a very mixed bag. It was very ambitious, the round robin tournament. I do recommend that anybody go back and watch it because I will give WCW credit here. They were trying. And the whole Starrcade 89 concept was there was a singles round robin tournament and a tag team. And I want to say there was 4 singles wrestlers and 4 tag teams in each one. And basically every combination wrestled. So like on the tag team, I want to say it was Wild Samoans, the Road Warriors, the Steiners, and Doom. So Doom wrestled the Steiners. Road Warriors wrestled Samoan SWAT team. Doom wrestled Samoan SWAT team. Steiners wrestled Road Warriors. Steiners wrestled Doom. You know what I mean? Steiners wrestled Samoan SWAT team. So everybody had to fight each other. And if you won by pin, it was like 40 points. If you won by count out or DQ, it was 20 points, whatever.
Silly.
It was a point system. So LOD won the entire tournament by getting the most points, but their only match they lost to the Steiners. Like, so they were trying to push the Steiners. And I would say, honestly, if you go back and look at that booking, that's genius. They didn't want to job the Road Warriors out to the Steiners, but they knew the Steiners were their future tag team. And everybody knows that when Hawk and Animal would leave, what tag team ruled the roost over there? Steiner Brothers. And so it was very smart. Road Warriors won, didn't lose any face, but they lost to this upcoming team. It was a close match, too. So that was awesome. I really liked the booking on that. You go back and watch the entire pay-per-view.
It's just the scoring system
was a little muddled, and it was just hard. And like Craig said, that's silly talk, and you're trying to keep score and who has how many points. And
if you carry the 4 with that disqualification, you have 45. But what you have is you're at 25 because you had a 10-minute match with a count out.
Yeah, it was. They tried. They really did try. But yes, I mean, they were still, again, they take the titles off them. And why the fuck they put them on Mike Rotundo and Kevin Sullivan, I'll never know. But they they take the titles off, but they're still pushing them. They're still a highlight in the tag team division yet. So it's weird. It's very weird what they did.
Not to go off
topic,
but
it might make sense because they were having disagreements with Jim Herd, and they made their last pay-per-view appearance at Capital Combat. That's a fantastic name.
A Return of RoboCop.
On May 19th of 1990. So they left the company the very next month after that pay-per-view appearance.
Because of RoboCop.
That totally makes sense.
They refused to chop to RoboCop.
That Jim Herd's like, you need to lose a RoboCop.
So it's Ed 209 and RoboCop.
This is the World Wrestling Federation. The Road Warriors went to work for Vince in June of 1990. Vince did not want to use the Road Warriors name because his top act of the name was the Ultimate Warrior.
Can we call bullshit on that,
I think they said something like they had like 3 Warriors already, right?
Yeah, it's all copyright.
But still, yeah, I think it's Vince wanting to erase and then...
I want to own everything.
Yeah, of course.
So even though they did use Legion of Doom before, it was like, yeah, he just wants to strip you of whatever.
See, he didn't have to know that. I mean, what are the chances that Vince even knew? What about Legion of Doom? That sounds great.
That's a good point. He didn't, and that's why it's a great idea.
Yeah, great idea. Glad I thought of it. Yeah,
someone told him they've been using it for 15 years.
But what's interesting too is the Legion of Doom was the bad guy group in the Justice League. So I don't know how that wasn't copyrighted the whole time. You would think Vince would be very sensitive to that. The Road Warriors, no. But like the Legion of Doom, yes.
Well, like if the World Wildlife Federation can see you, why can't a cartoon? I mean,
the Legion of Doom will feud with the Avengers.
You're now Spider-Man. You're
Hogan. Hogan, put on an Iron Man costume and just shut up. Put it on.
So they decided to use their stable name Legion of Doom. They still kept their individual names of Hawk and Animal. Chris has left the building.
Well, listen to the explosion here, Brain. Look at that. There's 2 people there that just don't care. Legion of Doom making their debut here on Wrestling Challenge. They've come here to the World Wrestling Federation with only one thing in mind, Brain. Yeah, to kick some people around.
They debuted as faces without Paul Ellering as their manager. A natural feud was against the WWF version of the Road Warriors, Demolition. LOD ran down to the ring at SummerSlam 1990 and cost Demolition their WWF Tag Team Championships. Due to Axe having health issues, the Demolition team would have to tour their house shows with LOD as Smash and Crush. The fans didn't really take to this very well because they had long been wanting the original members of Demolition to feud with LOD in a dream match. LOD was also teamed with the Ultimate Warrior on house show loops to compete in a 6-man tag against Demolition when Axe could actually go when he was healthy.
Smashing down tremendously. Big splash. It's over. Oh, tremendous victory. This place has gone crazy. standing ovation for the Ultimate Warrior. Here are your winners. And the Legion of Doom. And the Legion of Doom. And the Ultimate Warrior. This is what it's all about. Champion, the Ultimate Warrior joining forces.
What was going on with Axe, Jess, at the time?
I know his health was failing. He had a shellfish allergy that he didn't know about. I think that was the big deal. I think he always had a cardio problem, something with his cardiovascular. But he went, and I'm just trying to remember the story off the top of my head. He had some kind of shellfish somewhere and didn't know he had an allergy to it, and it reacted really bad. So he was sick, and I don't know if he ate it often or if it's just that one time it was like a parasite thing. I don't remember.
Shrimp. Everyday shrimp.
Dude, it will never turn on me. Like, and then like, he got sick.
Guys, I feel like crap again.
I can't understand it.
Well,
why don't you cut out selfish?
I got up. I had a lot of water. I worked out. Went to the shrimp buffet like I always do, and then I woke up this morning. I felt like shit.
I'm going
to go to the shrimp buffet, and I'll come back and I'll see how I feel.
And Axe was always old. When Demolition, he'd been in there a long time. He was always an older guy.
85. I don't know if anybody knows that.
It's true.
Yeah, they're still going.
Yeah, he's still on WWF television right now. Yeah, so I don't some kind of a weird thing he had going on. So he had a cardio issue to begin with, and then on top of that, the shellfish thing. So that's what happened, and they brought Crush in to be the third member, and they did the Freebird rules thing. So it was just really odd. Can I say though too, I admire Vince, but I get mad at him as a wrestling fan sometimes because even the Flair thing that would happen a year later, he just fucked all of it up. But he did it on purpose. Like, he was like, you're coming to my company, I'm going to absorb you in my machine, and we're just going to do what I want. Same thing with Flair. Yes, everybody knew who Flair was. Most people knew who the Road Warriors were. Most did. But Vince did such a good job of quarantining his audience that, some people didn't. So Vince is just like, you got to come in, you got to remake yourself here because, we're the best, and my people doesn't know shit about you. So if you want to come here and make money, you have to appeal to a national level. You can't just be popular on regional levels. So he got everybody to buy into that. You would think that would be on Vince's mind, right? Or any other promoter would be like, oh, Demolition and LOD, that's my fucking money. That's my tag team championship match. That's my tag team title feud. Vince is like, no, not so much. No, I don't even. Matter of fact, the titles aren't even going to touch them for a while. No, so we're not going to do that. And it's just sort of
don't take a spike out and stab somebody in the eye with it. Don't do that.
Fan. God damn it, Vince. You had LOD and Demolition. That's all we talked about as kids, looking at magazine covers going, fuck, no, they're not wannabes. They fucking fight each other. And then we get them. We're like, here we go. And Vince is like, damn.
Demolition's legit. What are you talking about?
Yeah, and it's not going to be a big pay-per-view blow-off. It's going to be house shows, and then do Hogan Warrior, and that's all he did. And it's like, so I respect it, but as a wrestling fan, I'm like, God damn it,
gate, man, just going to keep making that house gate money.
Right. Yeah.
Keep going. But LOD would destroy teams for the remainder of the 1990 year and the first half of 91. They would also team with Kerry Von Erich and the Ultimate Warrior at Survivor Series of 1990. Yeah, Cuz remembers that one. You want to weigh in there, Cuz?
Watched it again last night too, actually.
Yeah.
It's just so sad to see, though, man. Actually, when they're getting interviewed by Mean Gene, you're looking at that.
Whole
you're like,
team,
God damn it, man.
The whole team's
and Mean Gene.
Oh, it's sad because they're gone.
Yeah, all of them.
But it's crazy that talent, man. As a kid, especially that's what I was at this time. How could you not gravitate towards that team? How could you not?
It's not about the Warriors.
Yeah, it's not even just about the Warriors. It's about
the what is it? The Warriors was the name of the tag team.
Yeah, the Warriors.
Yeah, outside of WWF, all of them had a Warrior name except for when they went to WWF. Kerry Von Erich was known as the Modern Day Warrior.
Yeah, the Modern Day Warrior.
And then LOD was Road Warriors before they came in, and the Ultimate Warrior had always been Ultimate Warrior.
Dingo Warrior.
Or something.
I got the same hair.
Here's the big money right here, guys. At SummerSlam of 91, they would finally get their first shot at the WWF Tag Team titles and defeat the Nasty Boys in a street fight.
Nasty.
And they pick up those first WWF Tag Team titles. Thumbs up, thumbs down, middle on this one?
The match was okay, but it was at Madison Square Garden. I remember the ovation after they won the titles. The whole crowd chanted LOD for 5 minutes. So it was really cool. It was, a year after they debuted for the most part, and they finally get the tag titles. Vince was in no hurry. And I don't think it was an issue here, like Craig stated earlier. I don't think Vince ever sweats anything about people coming in and not jobbing, because when you come WWF, it's told right away to you, you do what that motherfucker tells you to do. And Vince is like, hi, like in the corner, and he's just like, he's the guy. Like, so I don't think it was ever. That's why I find it interesting that, cut your hair, change your shit. That's why I find it interesting that Crockett and Vince did the same thing. Because I get what Craig says about early on. It's like, well, we don't kind of trust these guys. They don't ever want a job. But that was never an issue when they went to Vince. That you just didn't say that to them. We don't lose. Because I think it was Bubba Ray and Devon where they tell a famous interview where they were talking with Vince about signing. And Vince is like, well, you're going to sign autographs. You're going to do this. He's like, no, Vince, we're heels. We don't sign autographs. And Vince looked at him. He's like, if you want the fucking money I'm going to offer you, you will sign fucking autographs. You will do what I ask you to do. And you will make the most money you've ever made in your life. And Bubba said he looked at Devon. He's like, Vince, we're going to sign those autographs. We're going to do everything you want. Because right then and there, the first meeting that you have with Vince, he's like, fuck everywhere else you are. This is the big time. I tell you what you're going to do. If you don't like that, get the fuck out of my office. Like, he didn't care. Like, he had the biggest names. Think about it. Like, and he neutered them and made them do what he wanted. LOD, Hogan, Flair, Warrior, Savage, Dusty. Like, you could go on and on.
Out when they had to.
Just fucking, you do what I say, fuckers. I don't care what you want to do. It's kind of amazing. So I feel it's weird that Crockett did that probably out of fear, like Craig said, the trust issue. But Vince was just like, I just don't want to put the belts on you because of his philosophy of, well, if you're already over, why the fuck do I need to do that?
I only know of one champion that tried to not to job out. We all know how that worked out with Vince. So,
you don't tell Vince you're not losing. It doesn't work out.
Yeah. Proof's in the pudding.
Yeah.
And that guy was never heard from again.
Yep. But this would make LOD the only team to win the AWA, NWA, and WWF Tag Team Championships. This is a record that will never be broken. That's impressive.
And people that weren't fans back in the day, you don't understand how important that was. They just give the titles to the guys. It's all fake. Okay, whatever. Like, whatever.
Definitely not in the other two territories. No.
Back then, you had to draw money and you had to be important to wear titles. You did. Even in WWF to a certain extent, you just did. And AWA was a big deal, like in the early and mid 80s. And so was the Crockett promotion. So was the NWA umbrella. And so was Vince. So to do that, like, that was a big deal. Like, to win the AWA tag titles and then the NWA and then WWF, that's something. And like I said, because AWA folded in 91, that will never be broken. Nobody did. People came close, but they didn't do it. And it was it's crazy, like, to think about that. Already in 1991, they were the greatest tag team probably ever at that point, with their notoriety, their presence, their gimmicks. You could say what you want about their
drawing power.
Yeah. I mean, God, like, they looked awesome. And then they go into the land of the giants in WWF, which people famously get swallowed up there sometimes, even if they're big in other territories. And they did not. And they conformed and they did what they were supposed to do. They were patient for that year and they win their tag titles. And that, well, I know it's easy to look back on history and be like, whatever, that doesn't mean anything. It really did at the time. It was on the cover of every magazine that they held those three big titles, and they were the first team to do it. And then when NWA folded, it's like nobody could do it ever, like, at that point. So I mean that in 1991 already, right? Like, well, we're going to talk about, they went on for years later still as LOD and did a lot of other important things. But man, like, it was a big deal for them. And as a fan, I was like, wow, like, that's a huge deal. Like, they make a lot of money, basically, is what I thought.
They make a lot of money. Yeah. It only took them a year in the land of the Giants to take that title down. So, and then they would continue to dominate the WWF tag team scene. At the Royal Rumble of '92, they lost by DQ to the newly formed Natural Disasters, Earthquake and Typhoon.
Yeah.
This was an interesting feud because the Natural Disasters were bigger than LOD.
Epic theme song.
And that's right.
Like a shotgun going off. Well, there's where the belts belong, right there.
The only way the championship can change hands is on a pinfall or a submission. Therefore, still the WWF champions.
They're lucky. Oh, they're darn lucky.
And that made for an interesting dynamic. Unfortunately, and that probably could have developed into something great, but unfortunately, Hawk and Animal were having contract issues in early '92. They had to drop the titles to Money Inc. Gosh darn it, at a house show in February of '92. They were taken off TV, but almost 2 months later, they were able to work those issues out. At WrestleMania 8, they appeared with their longtime manager, Paul Ellering. Probably Paul was long overdue to get them back on track in an interview segment. In reality, he was their actual agent. We talked about this before. He kept them on schedule. He made sure they made their dates. He scheduled them the dates that would make them a lot of money. He was a real manager. But it says Hawk had begun to struggle with addiction issues. I stress maybe that he'd always had them.
Correct. Yeah, and I think it became more apparent here. I think that
you just see it, right?
Getting older, you know.
When they came without Paul originally, I think that's when it showed a lot. And I think Vince was struggling with them at the beginning of '92, and then the contract thing came up, and he was like, "Well, fuck, like these guys."
I guarantee you, Animal's like, "Hey, we need Paul. We need the help."
That's exactly. I almost guarantee you that's the guy. Hey, you want to keep making money with us? Because Vince was like, "Dude, we're selling foam shoulder pads like a motherfucker. I don't want you guys to go, but like at the same time, like, yeah, if this guy is going to be like this, I can't have that." And so I think probably Animal was like, get Paul in here. Like he'll help.
Because Animal would babysit to a degree, but he can only take so much. He talked about that, and
I think it's the schedule too. Like I think any other promotion, you've got kind of days off, but there's nothing like the rigors and the schedule and the grind of WWF. So you cannot escape it forever.
Have said what, somewhere between 10 to 14 days on, and then 2 to 4 off.
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean,
that's tough.
It'll get you. You can't burn the candle at both ends at that pace.
Well, and you're partying after every match, and
that's the big thing, right? The work schedule is bad, but let's face it. And I'm not trying to shit on wrestlers because like this is how they make their money. That choice that you make as an adult of I'm going to go to bed.
You can just go back to the hotel.
Does not you know what I mean? They're away from their families. They're around other macho men that are fucking pumped up like they are. They go into a bar. There's, groupies there. There's fucking everything else. There's people going like, "You want a little sniff and the diff?" And they're like, "Sure." Like fucking, we
see Hawk.
They're still feeling that adrenaline from the crowd.
See Hawk
exactly.
Going,
That's
you go back to the room.
Fucking
10,000 people at a house show. Like they're just fucking still high.
You want to get that high, yeah. You want to get that high.
Yeah,
and the gym.
They don't want to go to bed
and come down after. And
so it's like they can't make that adult decision. We're going to go to bed at 9 o'clock, and then we're going to wake up at fucking 5 and catch our plane or whatever. Or we're going to wake up at 4, work out, then catch our plane. That shit does not cross their mind. It's like, they start partying and shit like that. And so that didn't help. And that was their choice ultimately. Even though the environment egged it on, it's still their choice. And so I think that's the difference between today's locker room, where what we always heard like over the last 10 years, like, oh, all the guys fucking do now is sit and play video games and shit, or play on their tablets and shit. I'm like, yeah, as opposed to fucking doing blow and staying up all fucking night long and drinking their ass off.
They'll probably live past 42 also. Imagine
right.
That.
Well, we're getting 2 guys right here are the perfect example, unfortunately. And I'm not shitting on Animal because Animal was never reported as a partier, but come on.
Like
he did the roids, he did all that stuff too. And I'm not saying he didn't party at all. He was just a lot more mature about it, or private about it. Whereas Hawk was
he didn't take it over the edge every night. That's
Hawk was just like, woo! Like,
no.
But even then,
we're in the big times, right? We got to get Paul back here. He's the only one that could fucking steer this ship, right? And Vince is like, fine, fucking bring Paul in.
Well,
I don't care.
Well, Vince goes, fine, but I'm going to find a way to mess it up. And we'll talk about that right now. So things go south very quickly. Vince wanted them to introduce a ventriloquist dummy named Rocco, because basically Vince found out that Paul was a ventriloquist and saw merchandise money. So I guess they were going to sell a lot of Rocco dolls. They did a vignette where the 3 returned to their roots in Chicago and found an old dummy, which was their childhood toy, in the wreckage of their childhood home. Paul picked it up and said he would restore Rocco and bring it to the ring as inspiration. Literally brings this stupid freaking dummy to the ring tied to the bike at one point. That's what I remember seeing. I'm like, what is this?
This is the piece of the puzzle that was missing. That no longer is. You think we were sick before? Well, you ain't seen nothing yet. You will never get the best of us. Only the worst, because we've always earned our money. The old-fashioned way. We beat people for it.
They would make the
Literally,
dummy
he
speak
brought
and
it to the
cheer
ring
LOD
with his
during their
hand up
matches.
He brought it to the ring with his hand up Rocco's ass, and he would literally look in the camera and be like, "Come on!" And he would do his ventriloquist shit to not make his lips move, but make Rocco talk, and be like, "Come on, LOD, let's go!" And like, it was just awful. It was fucking awful. And as a fan, I was like, "How do you find a way to neuter the greatest tag team of all time and the most intimidating looking tag team of all time? You put a fucking ventriloquist dummy in the corner as their manager, basically. Like, what the fuck is happening?" Like, yeah, it was WWF, right? Like, for good or
Fans
bad.
all over the world vomited Jess's
Yes,
words.
And Vince cashed checks of all the fucking merch. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He didn't give a
How
shit.
many of those they sold, by the way?
4.
5. No,
LOD was supposed to face the natural disasters for the WWF tag titles at SummerSlam in '92 in Wembley Stadium in front of 80,000 fans. About a month before the pay-per-view, Hawk began to show signs of major drug abuse and was losing control. Vince, I got an idea. Like, shit.
He got an idea. We're not losing ever.
Ever.
Like, and that's pretty much what it was.
Vince. I can just see him.
I have an idea. We're going to win every match in 30 seconds.
Yeah, that's right.
Someone get Hawk.
Everyone's just getting the clothesline. That's it.
Can Rocco go? Can Rocco go if Hawk can't? Can Rocco go?
Rocco's going to pin everyone. He became very confrontational towards management and definitely Vince himself. The decision was made to remove LOD from the title picture and face Money in the opener of SummerSlam. That decision and Rocco gimmick caused Hawk to resign after SummerSlam. I mean, the big thing about this, I think anyone else, Vince would have just said, "Fuck it, you're off the pay-per-view." But because it's Legion of Doom, he's like, "Well, we already sold 80,000."
We're going to demote you to the opening match, like, you know, which is still fine. And dare I say, it was their best entrance ever. The Harleys was cool. This is 1992. You know, now you
except for Rocco strapped to the front, but okay.
Triple H coming out with 25 Terminators, but like it back here, it was like a simple set in 92. And then like to see the opening match, the crowd's super hyped because they haven't seen a match yet really, except for the dark matches, and they're ready to go. And then LOD walks out in the opening, you know, thing, and they drive out on Harleys. Like, I'll never forget that image. Like, I know it's not their finest moment in the sense that we'll talk about the way the condition of Hawk, and the fact they had a goddamn fucking stupid dummy coming down to the ring with them. But I mean, like, I will always remember the visual when we watch it live on pay-per-view of LOD coming out. That fucking crowd, 80,000 people knew who they were. And this goes way beyond the WWF reach. They were world famous before that. People knew who the Road Warriors were. And then, of course, the couple years they were with WWF, of course, they get national notoriety on top of that. I mean, they were world traveled in Japan, like we talked about, every territory. It was really cool. As a fan, that's my favorite moment of them. And that's why I posted it on our Instagram account when Animal died. Because to me, like, that was like glorious. And again, you got to ignore the dummy on the strap to the bike of Paul Ellering and all that. But like, it was cool as shit, man. You go back and watch it. I'll sometimes just watch the entrance for no reason.
Rocco on his way to the ring. The dummy's driving the bike. Rocco along with Paul Ellering, bringing up the rear there. Was Hawk and Animal right behind. What an entrance.
And just, it's awesome. It's really cool. And we're going to get into the unfortunate shit that was going on behind the scenes while that happened. But it just was, I don't know. I always remember that. Like, in my mind, when I think LOD, I don't know why, I always think them coming down to that massive crowd in the daylight. No special lights, no trick effects, nothing. And it was just fucking 80,000 people, all of them chanting LOD after the match started, and Hawk looking around at them and just kind of like, I don't know. You know, I know they were all mentally probably in weird places at that point because the end is near. But at the same time, like, it's just sort of like, as a fan, we didn't know what was going on behind the curtain, right? I just remember that glorious moment when they came out there in London.
I was going to say, I don't think we knew. Like, everyone talks about how Hawk was, he almost couldn't compete that day. But, like, I don't think we recognized it at all.
No,
and we didn't know until years and years later.
Couldn't tell. Just like Bulldog. Couldn't tell.
What?
Well, I said, like, it was the finish of the geek. If he puts you up in it, he's going to fall.
Brett, I forgot what to do.
If he tries to climb the ropes, he's going to fall.
We were talking, and they talk about it on Dark Side of the Ring, the last ride with LOD. But what happened was, Hawk fucking is in the back, and pops more than enough somas to probably put an elephant to sleep, and washes it down with a beverage, and right before they wrestle. So already Animal's annoyed because he's like, he is fucked up. Like, and so he's slurring and he's not acting right. And so, yeah, they were just sort of like, we got to go out there and we got to get this done. So they were talking about doing the Doomsday device for the finisher. And they were just sort of like, Animal was like, he can't do it. Like, he'll fall off the top rope. He can't do it. And so I think they prepped for it. But I think IRS knocked him off the rope or something like that. So they covered well. And I think the ending came when Animal power slammed DiBiase and pinned him, if I'm remembering. So it was not a typical finish. LOD wins, but like it was not the Doomsday device. It was not what you normally would see from them. And I go back and I desperately try to watch. And if I'm looking hard, I think I see Hawk fucked up, but you couldn't tell. But that's how good Hawk was.
He's so jacked anyway. He's so jacked up.
But that's how good the other pros were, right? Animal, IRS, and DiBiase had to cover for that shit. And they had to work a match. And it wasn't a short match either. It was a decent length for an opener. And it's crazy. We had no idea as fans that shit was going on, man. Like, we had no idea. The Hawk was in big trouble.
Even worse, it's like, I don't know how many times we say it, that shit would never happen now. Like,
Right.
if someone saw that in the back, they'd be like, I'm not going out there with you. Like, no way. I don't care how much money's on the line.
But instead it was Operation, like, don't tell Vince and get fucking DiBiase and IRS in here. And what the fuck are we gonna do? Like, it was just sort of like that. And they made it work. And Hawk rode a goddamn Harley, like, down to the ring.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really scary.
You know what? That's so funny. Like, if he can ride a Harley the length of a football field to the ring straight, like, you can do the Doomsday device.
Whether he likes it or not.
I do this shit all the time.
But obviously, it seems like Hawk didn't give a shit. While he was in London, he went AWOL after the pay-per-view. He no-showed the rest of his European tour dates, missed his flight back to the U.S. Animal was not going to do that. He was going to honor the dates. So he was forced to wrestle handicap matches or take on random partners to fulfill the dates that he had agreed to. In this time frame, he severely hurt his back on the tour, aggravating a back issue that was already ongoing, but he had not addressed it. He'd be forced out of action for several months and was let go from the WWF. And that sucks for Animal. Like, he's just trying to fulfill the dates, trying to do his
side
job.
note, I didn't put it in, but I read it on Wikipedia, and I think it's fucking hilarious. Yeah. That when Animal went AWOL, so did Berserker, which just fucking
Hawk and Berserker went AWOL.
Or the Barbarian. Time. Yeah, like, so yeah, it's fucking funny because I'm like, well, yeah, of course him. And like, but then Hawk and him just hush, like they're fucking going out partying. Just imagine like that, just like all through London, all
yeah,
partying.
You know what
behind him, like,
totally off topic, but I don't think I realized it till now. But the Berserker was just kind of like a dub piece of Bruiser Brody, right?
Yes, but Scott, he was Nord the Barbarian. I think he was in a lot of territories, and I'm trying to remember his real name, and it's escaping me right now. But
I've seen video of Bruiser doing the same thing with his hand.
He was a fucking decent worker. He was actually legit. You know, when he gets in WWF, he's a little, cartoony, of course. But he was Nord the Barbarian was a tough dude. Like, he really was.
Yeah.
He was like a Scott Norton type.
Yeah, I can see that. So the Hellraisers.
I find it funny that him and Hawk were just like, who wants to hang out with me? Huss! Like in the corner, and he's like, come on! Like, it's like Jerry Maguire, who's going with me? And Huss in the corner, come on, let's go. We'll fucking make this work.
Fish. Yeah.
We'll get fucked up together in Europe.
I love you,
I can see that. I can totally. It's in my head now forever. The Hawk and Berserker drinking and doing coke together. Like,
it's like,
huss. Huss. I'm trying to say something here. Huss.
Sirs, we're getting a lot of complaints. Can you please leave the bar?
With Animal out of action and Hawk acting out on his own, he went to New Japan Pro Wrestling and formed a new tag team with the Japanese wrestler Kensuke Sasaki, sorry if I said that wrong, who was dubbed the Power Warrior. Their team name would be the Hellraisers. The only issue is that Hawk was using the Road Warrior look and gimmick with that team. Sasaki wore face paint and shoulder pads. This caused a major issue between Hawk and Animal because Animal did not know Hawk was going to pick another partner and have him dress like a freaking Road Warrior.
That's a hell of a betrayal.
It really is. He really just didn't care, right?
But dare I say, the Hellraisers were fucking cool as shit. And like I loved them in New Japan. I would always, when I tape traded, I got a lot of their shit. Like they were cool as shit. Even though I loved Animal as well. Again, as a fan, I didn't really know that was going on. I just thought that they split up and then that was it. And I think I might have read in like early dirt sheets that Animal was injured. But as a fan, I was like, fuck, that's fucking Hellraiser's a cool name. It's fucking cool. And Kensuke Sasaki went on to become a really big Japanese legend. And Dave's gonna read on that this actually gave him the rub. They were still popular. Road Warriors were in Japan. So Hawk going over there brought half of the LOD over there / Road Warriors, and people still remembered him. And and he was getting all that national notoriety from WWF as well. So Japanese crowd did not forget about him. And so the Hellraisers were pretty cool. I know we're talking about fucking everything. And I don't even remember who won. I think it was some bullshit finish, I think, where Animal and Hawk won or something like that. But I mean, it didn't even matter. As a fan, I was like, I am watching, and I remember thinking like, these two, they're fucking hitting each other hard. Like they're not because they respected each other, but they were just like, they were doing it. Does that make sense? Like they were getting out there and they're like, we're just gonna fucking throw shit, and you're gonna take shit, and so are we. And they're like, that's fine, just call it in the ring, we're fucking do it. Like,
He nailed him! He nailed him! Cheap shot maneuver! He's gonna drink a glass of water and there's gonna be squirting out of his cheek tonight, baby! Cheap shot maneuver by the Road Warriors! Surprising, but this was a battle for survival as these guys get ready!
And it was cool to watch 4 professionals like that, arguably the 2 greatest tag teams ever, if you want to get on that level, just doing some shit in a non-advertised match out of nowhere to make Bischoff's penis hard. That's basically
and I'm sure
what it
Bischoff
was.
not even respecting him during the match,
right.
talking about later on tonight, the NWO, how will they come back?
No, back there was the Dungeon of Doom and the Giant are going to be interviewed about Hulk Hogan later.
Now that he's got you
that
there.
Point, oh my god.
Oh, a superplex from the roof.
He's got to keep you there. He got you to change the channel. Now he's got to keep you.
So I didn't mean to ramble on about that match, but that is another match significant that I remember about LOD history, because as a fan, I was like, what the fuck am I watching right now? In a good way. I was like,
this is really interesting though, because the run only lasted 6 months because Hawk and Animal wanted high contracts, and it seems like it's deservedly so. They were on a month-to-month since their return back, but Bischoff felt that they were not worth the money. They left in summer of '96. Is that right? Wrong? What do you?
No, that's right. But it's funny how you say that they deserve the contract because they're I don't know, the fucking Road Warriors. But then Bischoff, again, it takes an arrogant guy, right, to make a company work. We were just talking about how Vince was. He was super arrogant, and this is my land, my country. You come here, you do what I want to do. But Bischoff was the first guy to take that attitude when he competed with Vince, and who beat Vince for 83 weeks.
I'm not doing that.
So and he was just like, Road Warriors, we want a lot of money, and he's like, okay, so does everybody else.
Yeah.
And they're just like, you're not going to pay us? He's like, nope.
I hate to say it, but I mean, they just didn't fit into what his plans were, right?
Probably not.
I think they were proven unreliable too at that point. Why would?
Yeah, I was wondering about that too. It could have been the unreliability as well. Yeah. So.
And you had a pool of talent that you could, make future stars out of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
There you go. In February '97, LOD makes a surprise return on Monday Night Raw to face the Headbangers. Was that a one-off?
No, they came back for.
They came and resigned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is odd because the match. Do you remember? Because the match ended in a double countout for no.
Yeah, that I don't remember.
And then they
would do that against the Headbangers.
Yeah, they surprise returned in '97, and the match was actually way more competitive than it needed to be.
Yeah,
and then
as I'm saying, Headbangers are tough.
The countout. Yeah, and I was like, what the fuck? And then I think they did the Doomsday after the match.
Sounds like a Vince power move if I ever thought one.
It's back, and I'm like, they're back to get counted out. Like, what the fuck is happening here?
The big bad Headbangers against Legion of
Vince. That's VKM all day long. That's what that is.
Mosh is our powerhouse.
And the other guy, formidable.
Stops with him, bro. That's your answer. In February '97, LOD makes. Same line. In WrestleMania 13, the LOD team with Ahmed Johnson and defeated the Nation of Domination in a Chicago street fight. Pretty fun match there.
Yeah, I loved it. It obviously everybody talks about Brett and Austin, and their match stunk up the joint. Jesus, and but I that street fight was really fucking fun. I remember them. Didn't Ahmed do the Pearl River plunge on the fucking table on the outside to D'Lo or someone? I don't remember, but it was cool because You can say what you want about Ahmed Johnson. He was fucking sloppy and horrible. But like when they came out, they gave
shoulder pads.
Johnson shoulder pads.
Yeah.
And when all three of them came out, and it was in Chicago,
Looked badass.
like the place went nuts. Like the place went fucking. Go back and watch their
He looked
entrance.
like
Like like all three. Was he carrying a fucking 2x4, Ahmed, as well? Like Jesus
don't
Christ.
remember.
Like yeah, the place went nuts. Like when they came out, and like it was in Chicago, and it was yeah, it was just awesome to see all three in shoulder pads. Ahmed fit in perfect. They both. It was a good match too. Like Nation held up their end of the bargain, and like it was a good street fight. It was just I remember it being a lot of fun in WrestleMania 13.
Tune in next week. The legend of Ahmed Johnson.
Damn right.
No.
He was misunderstood. He really was.
But we really should do a Legends episode on the next guys. On October 3rd of 97, the LOD defeated the Godwins to become two-time WWF Tag Team Champions.
He caught the clothesline. No, wait a minute. Wait. Another referee counts to 3. LOD have done it. Is it really official? Here are your winners and the new Pro Wrestling Federation Tag Team Champions, Animal and Hulk, the Legion of Doom.
But a month later, they would lose those titles to an upstart team of Billy Gunn and Jesse James. They would become the New Age Outlaws and eventually join DX. LOD would feud for a few months with them chasing the tag titles, but never winning them back.
They do that stupid angle.
You know what though? This is what whether they knew it or not, and whether Vince knew he was doing this or not, this was the appropriate usage of LOD. And
they're on their way out.
Yeah, they feuded for a 3. You know, they're in there with a veteran team like LOD. You're going to learn something. And you know, it was the after their prime LOD, and you know, they got beat down a lot. But like that was a really key factor in the New Age Outlaws becoming a part of DX and just getting over at the time. Their feud with LOD. And so I really remember that. Before their feud with Cactus Jack and Terry Funk and that whole thing, it was LOD that was in there. And I was just, as a fan, I was like, God, you know, LOD, I remember them being so invincible. But by here, they were not invincible, right? Like they were just another tag team. I hate to say it here. And Vince was trying to make new stars, and he did not want to do what WCW was doing before the NWO, which is just trying to get older stars over again. Like Vince was like, no, I gotta use those guys to make new stars, and they struck gold with New Age Outlaws, and they just caught fire. And you know, a Road Dogg got really good on the mic and had a good personality and did the whole "oh, you didn't know," and that was awesome. And they were learning all that shit here with LOD. So LOD played a big part in the development early on of the New Age Outlaws, whether they knew it or not. I hope they knew it, because I really want to think that LOD was giving back, because I do love LOD, and we're obviously talking about them because we all like them, respect them to a certain point. But I do think about this period as a fan at the time, I was disappointed because you're just watching the storyline, right? But like, and I knew who they were. But now I look back going like, I really hope that they were cool with putting the New Age Outlaws over, because that's what wrestling is. You know, you get to that point where your star starts to get dim, right? And then the bright star comes up over it, and you're like, I gotta action.
That's probably a lot of the reason behind Bischoff's decision. Nope, not gonna pay you that.
Yeah, you're right, and maybe Bischoff was right. Well, I mean, he roared right into 83 weeks shortly after.
He knew already.
So, yeah, he knew things. So, but yeah, it's just like, and Vince knew it too. I think Vince brought him in for their name value and knew that people knew them, and they would get good pops, and maybe that quarter hour would get some good ratings with them. But at this point, like they were here to make new stars. It wasn't about LOD anymore. So their second tag team title reign ended quickly. I'm glad they had it, but at the same time,
it's a nod to them, you know. Yeah,
and they get a little time off, taken off TV too. They do a feud to the back after they failed to beat the Outlaws for, you know.
Yeah, it was like it was like some Monday Night Raw match they hyped, and at the end, they started brawling with each other because they were so frustrated.
They get a little 2-month hiatus, you know, to regroup, and they were brought back as a surprise entrance in a tag team battle royal at WrestleMania 14. Yeah. They were renamed LOD 2000 with an updated look and Sonny as their manager.
Sonny,
that never hurts.
Bad, so fucking bad.
Separated 4 hours.
Hell yeah.
Animal wore short tights,
No,
while
hot.
Hawk stayed
She
in
was
their
hot.
traditional long tights. Their shoulder pads were altered, and they wore fucking
It's
motorcycle
all
helmets to the
silver.
ring. But that didn't stop them from winning the Battle Royal. Sonny would only manage him for a short time. After that, Droz would be brought in as a potential third member, similar to Crush with Demolition in 1990. Hawk behind the scenes was getting way worse with his drug abuse. As a result, the WWE thought it would be fun to make it a storyline.
That's what
This is, I don't know. I've never been a fan of, I know things get close to life, but I'm never a fan of
Nope.
the
Dave, can I
drug
stop you
abuse.
there?
Hmm?
You are not incorrect by feeling uncomfortable and hating it. This was garbage.
Yeah.
And like this, they did the same thing in WCW, probably around the same time, if not a little later, with Scott Hall.
Yeah, with Scott Hall, yeah.
And
Yes.
it's junk. It's
Yeah, it
garbage.
was dumb.
Like there's no place in wrestling for this at all.
Yeah. So Hawk would show up to wrestle quote unquote drunk, and Droz would try to stop him. This led to jealousy from Hawk, who accused Animal of wanting Droz to replace him. This led to the infamous segment on Raw where Hawk climbed to the top of the Titantron and threatened to jump off. And Droz climbed up, and he said he was making an attempt to talk to him, but it appeared that he pushed him.
The deal where they made pretend he was going to go up to the Titantron and help Hawk. And Hawk had all his demons and everything else, and he was drunk up there, and when he really went to go grab him, he really went and pushed him.
Get a shirt. No. Oh, what? God almighty.
You know, to be honest with you, I didn't really have it in me to want to do the angle. It was too close to what was going on in real life. And that bothered me.
Remember
I
that?
don't
It was like a
know.
cliffhanger. It was like
Falls
I was
behind
going up to help
Titantron.
him, but he pushed him, and it was really weird. And they dropped the angle really quick because it flopped, and it got a lot of complaints. And Hawk and Animal behind the scenes hated it, and they were just like, we're done. We just want out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And they make scattered appearances after that, but they leave the company in 1999. So they were named LOD 2000, but never got to 2000. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. Right. Yeah,
So-
you're right.
And going back to the Titantron thing, I bet it was Droz messing up, and he had to pretend that he was trying to and Hawk
Right.
fell backwards, but he overplayed it, and it looked like he did push him because Droz.
You're probably right. Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, they just messed it up. So we're jumping into the indie circuit, and we're going to get into some tough stuff here. The Road Warriors would tour Japan, make various indie shows for a few years. On May 23rd of 2000, right? Because you have it as 20. It's not 2020, obviously.
Sorry.
They made a surprise appearance and challenged the WWE Tag Champions, Kane and RVD. They would
I think
lose
it
the
was
match,
03,
but
right?
fans
I'm sorry, I
welcomed
think
them
it was
back.
03.
It
was
was around.
it was
around when
2003.
Kane and RVD were.
Oh, 5/23, 2003?
It was 2003. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. They hoped that would lead to a full-time contract, but the WWE never came a ring, and so that was the one-off I was thinking of.
I remember that match. That sticks out in my mind too when they came back in surprise and Kane and RVD beat him, but it was like, holy shit, LOD, it's still here.
And Kane will defend their tag team championships here tonight.
Here tonight. That's good.
Against a team that they've never faced before.
Never faced. Who's that?
A team that may be one of the best, if not the best, tag team in the history of our industry.
What are you talking about, Dare? What? Oh, wait a minute. You gotta be kidding me. Oh, my God. It's a Legion of Doom. It's Hulk and Animal. Where did these guys come from? Well, big
Yep.
It was crazy.
So in 2001, Michael actually began to clean up his life as Hawk, obviously. He quit drugs and alcohol. He found religion. And then on October 29th of 2003, Hawk was found dead in his Florida home by his wife. He was only 46 years old.
The night before he died, it was 1 a.m. when they figured out, when his wife went and checked on him. Then I guess they had bought a condo that was close to their home. So they were packing up stuff from their regular home to put in the condo to furnish it. I guess they're going to own 2 homes or whatever and have a little condo probably by the water or whatever.
Sure.
So the night before, Hawk was lifting heavy boxes and shit and, packing stuff. And he told his wife, I don't feel so good. I'm going to go take a nap. And this was late in the evening. She's like, okay. So he went up and took a nap and she didn't bother him. She left him alone for a while. And then at 1 a.m., she checked on him. And I don't know if she was sleeping and she woke up and checked on him or she was up doing whatever till 1 a.m. She went up there and he was dead. He was non-responsive.
Cause of death was a massive heart attack.
Yeah.
Horrible stuff. But I hate to say what you
No
do to your
surprise,
body.
right? I mean, no surprise.
He was unapologetic. He lived hard. From the very first time he started, he was unapologetic in everything he did and all the stuff he abused. So, I mean, tragedy, not unexpected.
I'm glad though. In a couple years before, 1 year before, he found peace and he was trying to be better.
Yeah.
I think the
That's
wife
when it's
had. He was married before and divorced. I think he married that wife in '98, and then probably went through a lot of problems with her, and but figured it out. They were just trying to figure out life, and they were wrapping up the wrestling career. They had to have been at this point, and it's fucking died in his sleep.
Yeah.
That's why it's more sad when the wrestler, like same with Warrior, they all clean up and, try to make amends with, the past.
Warrior, Macho Man was on the right track, and
that's what's sad about it when it happens like that.
Yeah.
When they're like,
you know, argue Eddie was on the right track when he died too. Yeah. It's tough.
Well, I mean, the stories that we talked about, just the incident where he threw Somas down and fucking rode a bike out.
Yeah.
He was 46. We're gonna get to, I think, or maybe I put it here. He was only 46 years old.
When he died.
Yeah, like that's insane. That's a lot of abuse on your body, and you got to know that he was, doing a ton of roids. He was doing a ton of coke in the 80s. Like then he gets into pain medication, washing it down with alcohol, still doing steroids, still doing everything. What a shame he died at 46, but it's a miracle he lived to fucking 46.
Yeah.
It's always when they get clean, right? Because your body's just, you take
so
time off your body, and you don't know you take time off your body. And then when it's your time, ding, ding, like that's it. And his heart's like, I'm done. Like,
and he lived 4 lifetimes. Like he traveled the world. Like,
I mean, that's good.
I bet he would have no regrets.
Got a lot done.
No, yeah. Well, that's not true. I'm speaking for. That's terrible. Yeah, he has no regrets. I talked to him.
He's fine.
Well, some people ask if you would do it all over again, would you? He'd probably say, yeah. I mean, like to the point, the money, the fun, the accolades.
He's bouncer in the roughest bar in Minnesota. Like he did fine.
Could have just done that all your
life.
It
molded him to be what led them to success.
You can argue you work in that bouncing club long enough, someone's gonna kill you anyway.
He loved chaos. He gravitated towards it every day. It looked like even. That's what made him.
And what's more chaotic than the wrestling business? Wow.
Right.
Yeah. Especially back then.
Yeah. Animal returned to the WWE in 2005. He took on a new partner in Heidenreich. I'm sorry about that.
Heidenreich.
They won the WWE SmackDown Tag Titles on July 24th of 2005 at the Great American Bash. Animal would dedicate the win to Hawk. Super cool. A short time later, Heidenreich would put on the face paint and be awarded Hawk's shoulder pads. Animal declared him officially as a member of LOD as further tribute to Hawk. Animal would return to Japan in 2007 to team again with Sasaki, rename their team to the Hell Warriors. In 2011, the LOD and Paul Ellering were inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. Seems long overdue. And then we get to what we just were talking about a couple of days ago. On September 20th, 2020, Animal passes away at the age of 60 years old. And everyone says, honestly, it's just old age.
Natural causes at 60. Come on.
I don't believe it.
All the years of use. He just didn't do as much as Hawk.
No, right. And I'm not shitting on him like he was doing something that nobody knew. The heavy lifting, the fucking what steroids. He did to get his body in that shape, steroids, travel. Right? Like
they probably drinking still does a number on your body,
He just wasn't he wasn't over top partier like Hawk was. Hawk was the talk of everybody the next day usually. Animal was very reserved. I'm not saying he did anything wrong, right? He didn't at all. Yeah. But that when you steroid yourself like that, shit, dude, you're gonna pay the price. 60 years old, man. Like
what hurts the most about that is like from all accounts, I mean, he was the responsible one. There was a thing about he stayed with his wife in the early days when he had a child. He was a Christian, raised a son that played 6 years in the NFL, seemed like a level head. Like he should have been able to live out kind of his golden years. But like I think, Jess, you talk a lot about personal responsibility, and it really is true. I think they all get in kind of knowing what it is.
So the Road Warriors are finally back together. You guys ready to get into the championships and accomplishments?
Yes.
Here we go. It's a lot of stuff. They were an All Japan Tag Team Champion, AWA Tag Team Championship they took down, the NWA Tag Team Championships, NWA Six-Man Tag Team Championships 3 times.
What?
They are a 2-time WWF Tag Team Champion. They are the winners of the Jim Crockett Senior Memorial Cup in 1986. They were the PWI Tag Team of the Year in 1983, 84, 85, and 88.
Wow.
I don't know who has more.
That's impressive.
They're ranked the number 1 tag team in the PWI 500 all-time list in 2003. Wrestling Observer Rookies of the Year in 1983. Tag Team of the Year in the Observer in 1984. They were in the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame in 1996, when they're still going. And they were in the WWE Hall of Fame finally in 2011. Oof.
I know there's been a lot of tag teams, and naturally as time progresses, right, and the sport evolves and all that, there's going to be other wrestlers. It's hard to pinpoint and say that wrestler's the greatest of all time or that tag team's the greatest of all time. I don't know what their long-lasting effect was on wrestlers, because there was no one like them after them. Nobody. I can't think of a tag team that of significance that was like them at all.
No one would disagree. And 2 quick things we have not talked about this entire time. We talked about how big and bruisey they were and they wouldn't lose anyone, but how good Hawk was on the mic and promos.
He actually was.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so that
And his voice
component
is
we
cool,
never
too.
actually talked about, but like he was amazing on the mic and with promos. And then the second thing, just I think Jess said it all, but how often they were imitated but never duplicated with
That's the
guys
term,
that
yeah.
like Demolition got close and surpassed them in their own different way, where they separated from what you thought they were trying to be with Road Warriors. But from Powers of Pain to Ascension, sadly, to everyone else who put face paint on, they would always be compared to these guys that did it all. And I think that's a
failed to
testament to
compare.
like how good they were too. Like they just were the originals, and you could not photocopy them.
Well, and you needed all that stuff to kind of mold them. That's what made them the legend. Like, I mean, even the things of like, we're coming here and we're not losing and we're not getting knocked off our feet. All that stuff. Like, can you imagine if they were just known as the guys like, oh yeah, we're gonna come in and yeah, you're gonna throw us off the top rope and you're gonna pin us 1, 2, 3.
Right.
Like if they were like that,
Yeah.
you never hear them. But
Or
all
yeah,
those
you guys
components,
get
you
your
know.
stuff in if you want. You guys do a double drop kick.
Yeah.
Double drop kick me. Fucking yay.
Yeah.
I'm fall down. You know,
Lift
whatever.
me
Yeah.
up with one hand, throw me over the ring, dominate us. Yeah, you're good. Yeah, you would never hear about it.
Oh,
But
you want to
because
do,
all
so you do chain wrestling? You want to do that for 10 minutes with me?
Yeah.
Okay.
They were like,
Yeah, I
have
don't
you
think so.
seen us? Like, no, you're not doing any of that. Have you looked at us? No, you're not doing that. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. There
But
was
you
a,
needed all that to mold their character and their persona and like how they were in real life, and then that bled into the ring. Like
and
that wouldn't have worked. They wouldn't be who they are now if
know
it
what the-
wasn't for some of those negatives to go with the
what I'm
positives.
searching for is like, they were not ran out of the territories, right? You would
Yeah.
think a selfish wrestler would be like, get the fuck out of here. And they would just go. They did not. Yeah. They came in, had that attitude, said, we're not losing. We're going to get knocked off our
Yeah.
feet. Promoters were like, okay, all right.
But you need those stories too. I took Somas before SummerSlam. Like I hate to say it, but like that's what makes the legends of each of them, and that's what made that team just like, I don't know, legendary and epic and all. Like I said, you mix the negative and positive stuff.
So,
If you didn't have some of those negative things, those legendary stories behind the scenes, they might not
yeah.
have been
Tell
where
me
they are
that.
today.
Tell me that you guys didn't get like the chill, on the back of your neck every time you heard like, "Whoa, what a
oh, yeah.
rush!" and then the
SummerSlam
music would
92, man.
hit,
SummerSlam 92.
and every time, man, I got the chills
That's
every
still
time
one of my favorites.
because you knew that these guys weren't going to put anybody in a fucking armbar for 2 minutes. Like they were going to come down there, they were going to stomp the shit out of somebody, they were going to power slam them, they were going to put them in
and
the
for me
Tuesday, it
as
was
a
gonna be
kid,
over.
you know,
And it was
obviously
going to be fun.
I'm gonna sing
Yeah,
this tune
and a
all the
lot of
time.
people forgot about their famous saying, Craig, oh, what a rush. What would Hawk say? A good trip for us, a bum trip for you. Like he would, I can't remember. I think I messed that up a little bit. But also, I think they both said it, but Hawk might have originated it. We snack on danger and dine on death was a big one.
This machine writes no checks. It can't cash. Tell 'em, Animal. Beverly Brothers, you've been spoiled all your lives. You've had the best teachers in the World Wrestling Federation. But now, get ready, because to us, you're a stepping stone to the WWF title. Tell them, there's many differences between you and us. For instance, you get pedicures at the beauty shop, and we take our nails and chop them off with an axe. You know something, Beverly Brothers? You're in for a lot of pain.
In the Crockett promotion, that was a big saying of theirs. And
So
yeah,
cool.
like I'm glad Craig brought that up because yeah, Hawk was awesome. You know, Animal was good too,
Hawk was
but
great.
Hawk was like he had a little bit
But-
more personality and color to
Yeah.
his stuff, and
That's
you
why
know, when-
Animal always went first, because Hawk was better.
Like I think that's why we're doing this now. I think that's why people are rehashing. There's two peoples to a tag team. So when Hawk died, I do remember as much. You know, a lot of people paid tribute to LOD, and now we're doing it again in 2020, and they absolutely deserve it. They really do.
And rightfully so.
I just picture them doing the Doomsday Device to St. Peter at the gates.
There it is. Hit us up on Instagram
Or like
at O.W.P.
when they got up to
2019.
heaven,
Click on
Dusty's
Linktree.
like, "You guys, hey, how you doing?" And they're like, "Hey,
See.
Dusty, oh my God, I'm
Because
so
I'm gonna
glad to
tell
see
you the
you
next
again."
thing you're gonna do. You're gonna
And
do the
Dusty's
Doomsday
like,
device.
Let me tell you something right now. Get the spike, do the thing to the eye again. It'll work up here. It'll work.
joke.
I'm
Click on
telling
Linktree
you,
to
it was
find us on social
groundbreaking.
platforms, including
He's like, man, sorry, God is trying to, you know,
iHeartRadio,
grab his
Stitcher,
kicks
and
with
Google Podcast. You're now part of the Wrestle Hub family, all about wrestling podcast. Catch them at the Wrestle Hub on YouTube and Instagram. This is Dave, Jess, and Cuz and Craig with the O.W.P. signing off. Have a good one.
This world is wrong to be.